All right, Nevin P. Cooper-Keel, JD, that's Juris Doctor, here with you. And so I published a book, but I'm working on another book, and it's on a much different topic than the first book I published. First book was about sole proprietorship, and that book's called An Edge for Small Businesses Your Attorney Doesn't Want You to Know About. Next book, I don't have a name for it. I'm just working on the concept. I've been working on it for years, and it is about interrogation tactics. And those are useful in more than just, let's say you're special forces and you got some terrorists you got to interrogate and figure out where the bomb's at. It's interrogation tactics are useful for a heck of a lot more than that. For sales, for instance, I have done 20,000 knocks on doors, cold knocking to sell something. I've done 20,000 cold phone calls, right? Cold calling someplace to sell them something or attempt to establish a relationship with a business or whatever, but it all relating to sales. I've probably done 100,000 warm calls. I don't know. Anyway, interrogation tactics, and I use it every day, particularly in, like my bail bonds business, for instance, where one of the primary jobs I do is answer the phone. Here's how my sales conversations go now. Oh, you want to get out of jail? You don't say. But anyway, what I'm doing on those calls, those are very warm calls. It's more underwriting the bonds and checking for collateral. And people will sometimes, particularly in the business I'm in, I deal with tons and tons of good people, but sometimes ones that are more accustomed to being deceitful, or they've got, I see all different sorts of stuff with titles to vehicles, titles to houses, all sorts of things. And that's one thing I rely on my law degree and my legal studies and experience is, not that I'm an attorney, I'm maybe, but there's bail bonds are the only business by law that I know of in Michigan. You can't be both a bail bondsman and an attorney. So anyway, if time comes, I'll practice law. But anyway, looking up titles and being able to determine the things that make a title legitimately someone's or legitimately not someone's are things I have to verify and research. And a lot of times, I'll have somebody hoping that they can tell me they own something that they don't actually owe to get me to agree. Maybe they just get me out there and they think they can pull a little switcheroo or whatever it is. And so just to make my business more efficient so I don't end up going out to calls like that are bonds that I'm not going to do, that I'm not going to be able to do. I have certain underwriting guidelines I have to follow. I've developed a way of, essentially it's interrogation tactics, questions I ask in somewhat of a certain order, to get, because ultimately here's what I'm trying to do. I know the thing I want to know about, but I know if I ask them about that one thing that's going to either make or break the deal, and I ask about it so directly, it tips them off as to the thing that's either going to be the solution or the problem. Sometimes they'll be evasive about it. So like Michigan, for instance, where I live, our Secretary of State, which is, many states call it the DMV, the place where you register the title of your motor vehicle in the motor capital of the world right here in Michigan. Our Secretary of State is complete trash. Her name's Jocelyn Benson. In addition to having done numerous things to rig our 2020 election, she, shut down the whole state, couldn't do any kind of car title business, a whole bunch of cars anyway. All their license plates were expired. People would try to sell their vehicle, but it was, 3 to 6 months wait to go be able to register the title of the car you just bought. So you couldn't get plates, you couldn't get, if you're transferring a plate from an old vehicle, it was less of a problem, but we ended up there were tons of cars on the road with no license plates. And they couldn't get license plates because the Secretary of State closed for business for quite a while because the communists decided to shut down our state. And then even to this day, it's an extremely inefficient process. There's tons of title problems. And honestly, it hits poor people more so than wealthy people, even though our Democrat Secretary of State claims she's, they're looking out for you. No, actually, the people they claim they look out for the most are the people they hurt the most. But anyway, see all kinds of goofy stuff with titles still. It's still, service has deteriorated massively as far as being able to get in and get your title work done. So, especially since 2020, I've had to become more and more on guard about, somebody claims them a lot of times, the reason I'll ask, so I'll take you through the line of questioning. I'll ask them. Usually I will ask, we're talking about a bond. I'm like, do you own a car? You can give me, yeah. I'm like, okay. So when did you buy your car? I ask that question because it tells me, did they buy it, 4 years ago when it was really easy to title a vehicle? Or did they buy it a month ago? Or 3 months ago or whatever? And there's a strong chance they haven't taken that title in to register it if they bought it that recently. So that's one of the first questions I'll ask about their car once they confirm they have one. And so the next question I'll ask in that conversation is, did you buy it from a dealer or a private party? Because, in Michigan anyway, a dealer is responsible for sending in the title paperwork to the Secretary of State. So if they bought it from a dealer, the dealer will handle that right away. If they bought it from a private party, the private party signs the title, gives it to the buyer, and then it's the buyer's responsibility to go into the Secretary of State and record that title and pay the sales tax on it and all that. Well, that's not as likely to happen as a dealer who's obligated by law as far as their professional license, and they're just, they're in the business of doing it. They do it, generally. So that's one of the next questions I'll ask, just to get to the point of, here's the real hitter. Is the title registered in your name, or is it not? Because if it's not registered in your name, that makes that car as collateral a lot less appealing, because then I either have to take the title and register it myself, then I'm going to be responsible to pay their 6% Michigan sales tax at the time I register it. I don't want to have to pay that tax. Or if I don't do that, then I'm counting on them going and registering that title, because I can't file a lien on that title in their name, right? Because I don't have a signature from the old seller. I can only file a lien in the person's name who just signed a contract with me for a bail bond. So then I'm counting on, they're going to go register this, I hope. So that's just kind of, just to give you an idea about some sequences of questions I ask as part of my interrogation tactics on that sort of conversation. It's applicable to a lot of things. And I mean, it's like a financial transaction. I'm acting more so as an underwriter than anything, just trying to verify property. And it's a kind of a volatile sort of property. It's like it's an automobile. Like if somebody owns a house, that's a lot better. Houses are worth a lot more. We always get those on larger bonds. It's easier for me to look up ownership of a house, because ownership of a house is recorded at, in Michigan anyway, what's called the Register of Deeds, which is a department of each county clerk, which is generally pretty much in every state in the entire country of the United States, how that works. And I would imagine elsewhere in the world it's somewhat similar, where there's some sort of central registry of properties that you can go look up when it's real estate. And so pretty much any Register of Deeds in Michigan, I can go on their website, look up their deeds, and it's either they own it or they don't. And for me to take a lien on a house, a mortgage on a house, essentially is what it's called, I have to have that signature notarized. I got to put the legal description of the property in there. It's a little bit more work as far as taking liens on houses, but it's a lot more secure. And it's a lot easier of a conversation. I have a little bit different sales conversation when I'm talking about those, because I'm less concerned about verifying title than I am cars right now, because that's controlled by the Secretary of State, who runs a crappy operation and has really screwed business up in the motor vehicle capital of the world with motor vehicles, and we need a new one of those. Anyway, I'm going to end there. Nevin P. Cooper-Keel, JD, signing out.